Hey, this is Little Talk, Big Nicky. So to the Bill Squire Show. I am your host, Bill Squire, and I am here again with Nikki Merlino.
Hey.
And she was Instagram hottie a couple weeks ago, and she is back to just chat and just hang out.
I am back by popular demand.
There was some good feedback on Nikki, and people were, they're digging her. So they're like, hey, bring her back. Let's talk with her some more. And that's what we're gonna do today. And you're rocking an Indians shirt.
I am.
What do you think of the name change and everything?
The name change.
The name, they're gonna end up changing the name. That's basically what it comes down to.
Do we know to what?
Not yet.
Okay.
But they're throwing out a bunch of things. And I was actually talking today with a lady, and she sent me a petition. She's like, I think we should change. They shouldn't change the name. And I go, oh, I'm all for the name change. Like it's long overdue. Like I absolutely love the Indians, but I also understand that it's inevitable that they're going to change the name of the team.
Right.
So let's just do it, and I understand the reasons, and I'm on board with it. Like I understand it because first of all, it's like naming your team a mistake.
Right.
Like it's like naming your team a typo. Like,
should we
weird.
name them Mistake on the Lake?
No. There's so many good names you can go with too, and like that gets me excited about the name change. So
right.
I don't know if you fall in the like keep the name camp or not.
No, I don't.
No,
don't.
Yeah.
I'm like one of those people where like I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be picketing like, oh, we should change it, but I'm also not going to be like picketing like, oh, we can't change it. Like,
well, like the lady that I was going back and forth with, like she's a nice lady, and we've like I've done some things with her, and she's like a really sweet lady, but she also didn't understand why I was so adamant about it being changed, because like the biggest thing is like they're Native Americans, they're not Indians, and we're characterizing them as such,
right.
And then turning them into the stereotype, which is like the cowboys versus Indian stereotype, where they're savages trying to kill us, and it's very degrading to them,
right?
And so I understand that whole thing. And I was talking about all the things that they've been through, and she's like, well, it's a melting pot. I'm like, yeah, but we stole their pot. Like that's
we took the pot.
We took the pot, and then we killed all of them,
right.
And that's why it's got to change, because
more like a murder pot.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, what? And I'm like, you never heard of the Trail of Tears? She's like, well, if that's true, then I guess I should look into it. I'm like,
that's true.
I'm like, you gotta. So you don't know anything about what's going on. Like that's it. And it was just one of those things where she's like, I know some Native Americans, and I'm like, no, you probably know someone that says they're Native American.
Right.
That's like, I'm not offended by it, but like, I've been on, like, I've done gigs on reservations and stuff like that, and they're not angry about it, but they're disheartened by it. Like, they don't like it,
right?
Because that's not who they are, and they know what it means. Whoopsie Doodle, you got to calm down. She wants to weigh in. Whoopsie, what do you think about a name change for the Cleveland Indians? And now she's got nothing.
And she got camera shy.
Yeah,
right.
She's on the spot.
Right. Yeah.
Whoa.
There she goes. She goes. Yeah. No, I'm on board if they want to change the name. I'm like not a diehard like baseball person, if that makes sense. I just like repping like Cleveland sports. Right. I enjoy going to an Indians game. So I'm not usually up to date, but
I love Cleveland sports. I love baseball. But I also understand like things evolve,
right? And
it's okay for that. And I'm actually excited about some new, like a new name. Like if it's the Spiders, I'm cool with that. If it's the
I hate spiders.
You hate the spiders? Well, do you hate spiders or you hate the name Spiders?
I hate spiders, so probably not my first choice of a name. But
yeah, but I like the Blue Sox. I've heard the Blues. My idea was the Cleveland Beat. I like that. I know that's gonna like have connotations like, oh, we beat Cleveland beat, like that kind of thing. But I like singular, not the beats, but the Cleveland Beat, and I think that's a nice nod to the Rock Hall. And you can still have John Adams out there beating the drum.
Right.
I think there's a lot of cool directions they could go with it, and that gets me excited.
Right. Whoopsie's excited too.
Yeah, Whoopsie's all excited about all those different names. She likes change. She's such a brat.
Oh, she just wants to be part of the action.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If I let her out, then she's going to be part of the action, and it's never good.
Right.
Yeah, so it's either we hear her barking in the background, or she ends up derailing us all show. So, So last time you were here, we had some nice chats, and then I was like, okay, well, I want you to come back a few times and kind of become like a regular on the show. Basically, I'm
Yeah.
trying to build like a cast of regulars, and so far I got my buddy John Bruton, I got Marty, I got AJ DeCosimo, and you're the first, and my girlfriend, and then you.
Right.
So you're like the second woman, I guess, to be in the mix.
Hey,
Repeatedly.
I'm honored.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing good stuff. And
Thanks.
and I was like, all right, well, the best part of this is you are trying to develop your own, brand and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm gonna make you do some of the work
Right.
and come up with some topics.
Right. You did. You put me to work, and I sat down and I brainstormed some things.
Yeah,
Some of them probably bad, but
I think some of them are very good. I mean, but that's the thing. You throw it all out there and you
Right.
see what you come up with. And one thing that you thought we should talk about, and it makes sense, is Hamilton just came on Disney Plus, and you're all about it.
I'm all about Hamilton.
Okay,
I'm a Hamilton fan.
I'm coming around on Hamilton.
Okay.
So I've been watching it. I still haven't finished it because it's
Long.
fucking long. All right, I gotta go. It's fucking long. I can't even leave the fucking out because it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and that's a long time for like if there's dialogue.
Imagine
and
being
stuff
there
like
in
that.
person.
I know, and that's kind of the thing that I've noticed is like, you're so used to watching movies and these like really like produced productions, and this is obviously very produced, but it's a live production.
Right.
So as they're performing this whole time, they are getting sweaty, and I appreciate that.
Spit flying.
Yeah, spit flying, just out there, not COVID safe. Like it is very, very
More than 6 feet,
yeah,
please.
yeah, they're,
Yeah.
But they're out there doing work. But the biggest trouble that I'm having with it is, first of all, I don't know history as well as I thought I did. I thought I knew
Same.
some stuff. So like I'm
He
learning
took me
some,
to school.
yeah, he's teaching me things, but there's also so much happening that I'm like, what was this? What was this? What was this? Okay, I don't know about this.
You really gotta-
I remember it like vaguely, but I don't exactly know the timeline or
Right.
enough like that. I'm trying to keep track of all the characters. It's a lot to take in, and then on top of that, there's no spoken dialogue. It's all either rapped or saying,
Right.
and I have a hard time processing all the words. There's so
Right.
many lyrics, and it's like it's one thing to take a situation like Wicked or something like that, where that's a lot of singing and stuff like that, but they're like very deliberate, long, like slow songs. Almost.
Right. It's not like rapid fire rap.
Yeah, but like rapping. A rapping musical is so many words.
Right.
So for Lin-Manuel Miranda to have written all this and then tied it all together and then make it good is just it. Yes, exactly. It blows my mind to be like, okay, you made a 2 hour and 40-minute musical about American history, and then you also made it good and like it's
And
really
fun.
catchy and fun. And
Right.
like there's a nice through line through it, and I really appreciate all the work that goes into it. But my attention span is like seeing it live would have been way better for me because you
Right.
just kind of have to dial in. But
Oh,
like
I was
watching
locked in.
Yeah, like you got locked in. I can't. I have a hard time.
I was
locking
locked
at
in.
home.
When we
I was
saw
like a
it-
dog that's on my butt all the time.
We saw it when they came in. What was that? 2018.
Okay, so you saw it.
I saw it in live.
So you saw it live.
Yes.
See, I think that's the way to do it is to see it live,
But
and then
I went in having no preconceived conception,
Yeah.
notions, like anything. Me and my roommate went, and I was like, let's not listen to the songs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not look up anything about it. Let's just like go in there. And I remember like after the first maybe like 3 songs, I just looked at her and I was like,
do you know what's happening?
fast. No, I was literally like, fasten your seatbelt because this is insane.
Yeah.
It didn't feel that long. Like honestly, it felt quick.
And that's the thing. I think that's the situation that you get into with live versus watching it on television is like you're a little bit more aware of the length of it.
Right.
Whereas like the live, the energy, the emotion that you're feeling
Right.
draws you in more. And they did a great job with cinematography and everything like that. But it's still, when you're on your couch, there's always more distractions.
Right.
And so if I could see this, like I definitely want to see it in the actual theater someday, but I wish I had seen it like first in theaters
Right.
or like in a theater.
Right. I agree. It was incredible though. And of course it wasn't all the original cast. Like they had someone else playing Hamilton.
Yeah, you had like the touring company probably. You see it in Cleveland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Playhouse. But yeah, I mean, it was just, I was shocked because again, I didn't know it was a full-on musical. I didn't know that there was no spoken parts.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was in for.
Yeah.
But I love hip hop, so as soon as they incorporated some of that in, they were rapping.
Yeah.
I think I made the comment because they rap the part where they're like deliberating in Congress, and I was like, literally, if we could just do that today, America would be 10 times better. Like if we could actually
you have to have a flow.
Right. If we could actually have like Congress hearings that sound like this, it would be worth.
Right, where they're not just trying to like filibuster or like, well, and that's
Right.
what it goes back to too. And like this is like my like I'm not really a pot smoker, but it's like my pot smoker thought while I'm watching this is like, oh, hold on, Whoopsie, I'm making a big one.
Whoopsie is in the building.
Yep.
And she's out.
All right. So here's, let me get back to this. The big moment that I was like the big like high thought moment where it's like it's painfully obvious to everyone, but you're like, oh, that's pretty clever in a little bit of a way. But you go, anytime you're talking with somebody and they're like talking about someone that I don't know because of the immigration thing that is such a big deal to a lot of people in America, you go, well, none of the forefathers of this country were born American. Which is so stupid, but I don't know.
It's so
I
true.
thought it was fun. It's true, and it is,
Right.
but it's like dumb funny. I don't know.
That was like the moment where they were like, immigrants, we get the job done.
Yeah.
And it was like really just such a punch in the face to everyone who's like, oh, immigrants. Yeah, and I loved how the cast was diverse too.
Oh,
he
very.
made sure there was people of color in there and women, even though they wouldn't have, obviously been in those roles in real time back then. But
Yeah.
I thought that was really important and cool that he did that too.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. I'm trying to get through it, but like I said, it's a little overwhelming,
Right.
especially not seeing it live in a theater versus like watching
It was
at home.
still overwhelming. Like listening to the song still like now, I'm like, oh, I didn't hear that before. Oh, I didn't catch that line before.
I was just talking with somebody on Instagram about that, about how much goes into it, and like I'm like, this is a couple times I'm gonna have to watch this to really process everything that's going on. Like I feel like I'm gonna watch it and then I'm gonna read a bunch of shit and then go back to it and see if I can know a little bit better what's going on.
Yeah, literally the next day we were
better.
like Googling like Schuyler sisters, Philip, like
Yeah, all this
just
stuff.
Googling
There's so much
everybody.
stuff. I'm gonna have to start. I'm gonna be like Alexander Hamilton. Tell me more about him.
Right.
Because like there's a lot there, and it's really like if you had asked me before this, like what was his role, and like I'm like I don't know. He got shot. I knew that.
She says hi.
All right, come on up. You got your cone of shame.
Cone of shame.
Just needs attention.
Always.
Because she's don't chew on that.
Yeah, but it's just such a masterpiece. And I said in my podcast last week when I talked about it that I definitely think it'll be easily in top 5, top 10 of all-time Broadway shows.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be.
Yeah. Now, going to your podcast real quick called Little Talks with Big Nicky, what the name of this episode is I'm a grandma voice?
I said I sound like a grandma.
I sound like a grandma. And why do you sound like a grandma? Just to kind of tease your podcast and maybe get some people to check it out.
Yeah, check out last week's episode. I called it, I was going back and forth. This one for me was so hard to name. Usually I get a name like right away.
Yeah.
And I usually have the name, like the title before I have what I'm actually going to say.
Right.
But this time it was like the opposite. And I just was talking and I was like, I realized listening back to it how many times I just sounded like an old person, where I just was like, they don't make things like they used to anymore. Do you remember back in the day when we didn't have
All right, what
iPhones?
are some examples of these things that we like? Okay.
I was talking about cartoons.
Okay.
I was talking about
what cartoons specifically? Because I love cartoons.
I used to watch the original like Scooby-Doo's, Tom and Jerry's.
Okay.
The Justice League was what I was really talking about. I feel like I talk about the Justice League and nobody knows what I'm talking about.
Love the Justice League.
I love the Justice League.
Like the Justice League that like this is probably on in like 90. I want to say like 97 to like 2001 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's such a good series.
They had like the whole crew.
Yeah, they had everybody. And everybody had their different stories.
Yeah.
And like each week you weren't getting the same heroes every
Right.
but like I love the Justice League.
Right. I love it, but I feel like I talk about it and I can't find it anywhere. Like I've been able to scrounge up some of the old Scooby-Doos and Tom and Jerry's, but I can't find the Justice League.
Justice League was on Netflix for a while, so I binged it all while it was on Netflix, but that was like 5 years ago.
Oh.
So I'm not sure where it would be now, but if it's anywhere, it's probably now on HBO Max because they own Warner Brothers and they're like hoarding all their content. So my guess is that it would be on HBO Max.
Right. Yeah, the Justice League. But anyway, so I was talking about like
Who's your favorite member of the Justice League?
Gosh. I feel like Wonder Woman's like too much of like a blasé answer, but
you can be obvious.
Honestly, the Wonder Twins are not talked about enough.
All right.
They're just they don't have a movie like of their own. Like I feel like they're just
they're
like
not
the
even,
underrated.
Anything. Yeah, they're not even like in like a
nobody
CW
even knows they
anything.
exist. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
love them.
Justice League, I would say, I mean, as far as DC goes, I love Batman a lot, but on that series, I really love the Flash.
Oh, the Flash.
Flash is so good on that series.
Do you watch the Flash on
No, I watched like an episode or two, but I never got into it. But I feel like that's something I'm going to binge eventually.
Right. I haven't. I'm very far behind. But that and the Arrow, the writers are like the same.
Okay.
It's insane.
So I started watching Arrow and then I bailed like 3 episodes in because there's an episode where he goes into a prison and he's dressed up like a prison guard to try and like sneak around in there, but he's still wearing his mask. And I'm like, no one's going to think that you're a prison guard if you're wearing a mask.
I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah. I was like, that's so silly. Like they got like, it was so stupid.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Honestly though, if you stuck it out, the plot of that show, it's never boring. Mm-hmm. It's always a surprise. You never know what's going to happen next. And then when they do the crossover events.
Yeah, I heard those are real fun.
I'm like, wow. Yeah.
And they like tied in with like Supergirl and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Supergirl came a little later.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
So, whoopsie. What are you doing? Such a jerk.
She's talking back.
She is. I know. She's very sassy.
She is sassy.
I was hoping that once I got your vagina out, you wouldn't be so sassy. Hey, get out of there. What are you doing?
Once they removed your lady parts.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to talk. That's like a bit that I do about how. Oh, God damn. Everything's coming down because of you. Oh, that's a good
the whole set's just falling apart.
No, you can have that. 'Cause I don't use that.
Well, I guess that just proves that, if we remove our vaginas, we're not going to be any less sassy.
Right. All right, but I got to stop her from destroying that box because that's... All right, so we're talking about Justice League.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting back to that. Martian Manhunter I love, which...
I've never seen that.
He's in a bunch of episodes. The green guy.
I thought that was Green Lantern.
No, there's Green Guy, there's Green Lantern, but then there's Martian Manhunter.
Oh.
You have if you watch Justice League.
Okay, well, you have to remember, Bill, this was back in, 2000? And I was, 3.
I'm going to show you.
My memory's not an elephant's. Mm-hmm. Martian Manhunter. I'll probably recognize him once you show me.
What's his actual name? So that's what he looks like.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah. He's got, like, a regular name, though.
Oh. Was he on all of the episodes?
He wasn't a lot.
Okay.
What's his name? What's his name?
He never got a movie either.
No. John Jones.
John Jones.
But it's spelled like J''ONN, the Martian way.
Right.
The way it's spelled.
The Martian way of English.
Of spelling John Jones.
Right.
But it's, I love that. Now, okay. Another topic you want to talk about, and I'm sorry, these are like really blunt transitions, but I'm just going to get to it.
It's fine.
Was dating during quarantine.
Yeah, I just thought it would be interesting because, like I said, I didn't know when you and your girlfriend started dating. So I was like, well, maybe this is something.
So our story is basically this. She went through a breakup in like January of 2019.
Okay.
And so right around that time that she broke up, like we started talking. She's friends with Mary, and so she was just around a bit. And so we started talking, and then we started kind of hooking up. And then after about 6 months, I had developed quite a bit of feelings. She wasn't ready to be in a relationship. She kicked me out of her car one night. because I was like, I have feelings, and she's like, I'm not ready for this. Get out of my car.
Oh my gosh.
And then I thought that was it for us, and then she started showing up to like things that I was doing, like my weekly shows, and just kind of, and I like to tease her and say she was stalking me, but it's not like I was sad to see her.
Right.
And then around December of 2019, we made like official, and so like we were pretty new in our relationship once quarantine started, and it's pretty tough on her just because she didn't have a job,
Right.
so she was kind of losing her mind just with nothing to do,
Right.
and but
What does she
overall,
do?
She's a cook.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think she's like chef level, but she likes to downplay it a lot. She's really, really good. But she works for a restaurant, and she's like really talented. But she also worked at House of Blues when they were open, and like she could do anything they needed there.
Right.
You should be bartender or a server or like bar back or whatever they needed.
Right.
She could fill in for anything, and she's a really hard worker, and so not working was a little bit strange for her.
Right.
And but we did real well. I mean, we had a lot of fun.
Right.
We drank a lot.
What else are you gonna
A
do?
lot of quarantine drinking.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you're much of a drinker, but
I like my Moscatos.
Okay. All right. Yeah, she likes bubbles is what she calls it, but champagne is her.
Right.
That's her.
Bubbles.
She likes whiskey and she likes champagne.
Okay.
And that's kind of her jam.
Okay. Right on.
So how'd you meet your guy?
Yeah, well, I guess kind of similar thing, but a lot faster. I was like kind of talking to someone, and that ended. Mm-hmm. And then my boyfriend was, long story short, he moved out here from Vegas.
Okay.
Not because of me. Let me just clarify that. It was actually for the internship that I had last summer. At one of the marketing agencies downtown, his best friend was like my boss. And so he was like, hey, you want to come out to Cleveland basically? And he's like, yeah. So he came to Cleveland and I met him officially in early November, but I was still kind of like talking to this other person.
Yeah.
Right. So we were just friends, didn't think anything of it. Just, worked together, saw each other occasionally, like outside of work. That was it. In like groups of people. And, he basically was like, I was like, I want to start a vlog in 2020, like not just doing the podcast anymore and also up my podcast game. And he was like, so helpful, like spent hours on the phone with me, was like, this is what, like the equipment you need. Cause
Is this from Vegas that he was doing that?
No,
Okay.
from Cleveland.
From Cleveland, but
right.
But is this when quarantine started or just like?
This was right before quarantine. So this was like late December, early January.
Okay.
And he was basically, cause he does audio and video editing. So he was like, this is what you need. Like, I'll edit your vlogs for you. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, that's so nice. Thank you. And I was like,
you want to edit some other stuff for free?
right. Hey.
My stuff's simple. It's
Right.
one shot.
He loves it though. He loves editing. But anyway, so then basically this other thing ended and I had to call him literally the next day to discuss. The vlog was supposed to be like going out either that day or the next day, and like we had stuff to talk about. And I'm like not really together, kind of crying and just not in the best place. And then so he was just like there as like a friend, to just whatever. And then I was like, and then my mom said something. She's like, well, if you keep talking to him, like. She's like, do you think like you like him? Because my parents already met him at church because he plays on the worship team. He plays piano. He's also a piano teacher. So if you need piano lessons, let me know. But so then basically it was like the end of or middle of February. They had a show where they played at the Holiday Inn in Independence actually, and right down the street from my heart. And I like went with another friend of mine who does some work for them as well. And I was just like, I just sat there and I was like, I think I like him. But it was like so quick and so soon, like I didn't want to say anything. And then like literally the next day, and I didn't say anything. And literally the next day he texted me and he was like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I really like you. I don't want to like put us in a weird position. Our friendship's like the most important. But if, you think like this could go somewhere, I want to start dating you.
Good for him for pulling the trigger.
Right.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like, man, the frick up.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes. I think our stories are a little bit different. Like, you guys were friends first. We were just kind of banging for a while, and then we got to know each other. So I think the stories are a little bit different. But
Right.
like you guys, it's almost the exact opposite.
Right. So then I didn't want to, there was like a lot just to it. So I said, like, and I replied kind of how you, Mason, your girlfriend was like, I was, well, maybe a little different, but I was like, I think I like you and I think I want to do this, but I'm just not ready right now.
Right.
So we actually did like a 8-week, it's called Relationship Goals by Michael Todd. He's a pastor in Oklahoma. And I just was like, you know what? I think this would be really good for us to both go through, because he's like new to church. And I was like, let's just go through this, see like what discussions we have from it. Let's see like if we're on the same page about things, like all this stuff. And so we did that for 8 weeks, and we just got closer and closer. Got to know each other more.
All right, what are some of the things that you do in relationship goals? Like what's an example?
So basically, it's like a sermon. And we watched it, but then so we take notes, and then after it was over, we would kind of like go through like the notes that we each took and see like, because sometimes he would write something down that I wouldn't write down, and then it would like invoke like discussion just about like marriage or like future like family life, or just like how to deal with like conflict or like communication within a relationship.
Yeah.
But from, of course, like a more biblical standpoint. So yeah, we just like,
now when you say biblical standpoint, you're talking about like communication and love and comfort, not a man will lead a woman, and like
right.
it's not like a sexist point of view.
No.
It's more of a just communication and
right.
and understanding and open-mindedness.
Right. And it was just like, I mean,
because there's plenty of people that would be like, oh, from the biblical point of view, so they have multiple wives, and there's some stuff in there that's like a little,
No. He just in the pastor that we were watching, Michael Todd, he even had his wife come up and preach with him several times. Okay. So it was a male and a female perspective. It was for married people, single people, divorced people, like all spectrums, things that you can just
I
take
should
away.
try this with my girlfriend and see how far we get, because well, like I said, we did it in a very different way,
right?
A much more, I'll say, secular way.
Right. I still think like, even though I tell like even like people who don't really believe, I'm like, I think this is just good in general, and it's even good for like friendship relationships. It doesn't even have to be like a romantic relationship either. It just teaches you, or makes you think about things that maybe you wouldn't think about otherwise.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, we did that for like 8 weeks.
I feel like I've done that just through trial and error, basically by being like divorced and in a bunch of relationships, and like having gone out with a lot of people. Right. Like I know what I would need to ask to be like, all right, how do you feel about this shit?
Right.
Kind of thing, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. I feel like even me, like as I haven't had that many relationships.
Yeah, it's a good guide for somebody that hasn't been through that stuff. Like that sounds like it would have been really helpful for me when I was like your age.
Right. And I even wish that I would have seen this when I was like 15. Yeah. To be honest with you, I was like, man, like they should, like, everyone who's like a teenager should watch this. But yeah, so we did that for 8 weeks, and then because I told him, I was like, I don't want to be like official until like we kind of get through this, just to like the time, and just I'm like so logical in my head. So then after that, he like asked me officially, like if I would be his girlfriend.
Well, while you were in quarantine, were you guys like seeing each other? Was it like?
Yeah, we saw each other.
Okay, so you like made that like decision, like, okay, we're gonna only see each other, and kind of like.
Right. So basically, during quarantine, I saw him and my roommate, who I live with, and that was it.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
That's kind of how it was for me. Like I saw work people, like Pound Cake and Alan and Mary and my girlfriend, and that was.
Right.
All I saw.
Right. Yeah. So it was basically like that. And I always joke like that we haven't had like an official first date. And like we technically did have a first date, but it wasn't when we were dating yet. It was when we knew that we kind of liked each other, but we were still like just kind of.
Well, then, yeah, you guys should go on a date. What are you doing tomorrow? You come to my show, Hilarities.
Oh man,
comedy club for first date.
I know. Fun. I'm like one of these people, like, not that I want to talk too much about coronavirus, but I'm like one of these people.
You're being very cautious.
I'm very cautious, and
I completely understand. I'm
overly cautious. I'm one of these people. I'm like, I don't want to go to a restaurant. I think people who are kind of like insane, but do you? I don't know.
It's a little terrifying, and then you see these stories about people that are like young that are getting like. Not even just dying, but like having long lasting effects. And so I completely understand that and respect it. So
Right.
yeah.
So, and he sees like way more people than I do. Cause like I said, he teaches piano. So he's like going into people's houses and then he's on worship team. So he sees like those people from the church, like at least probably once a week or something. And I'm just like, I'm trying to like stay as low profile as possible. Obviously I need to start working. So I'm going to see people, but
you know, a date. You guys can could go on an official date where you're not going to a restaurant or something.
Right.
He could take you to the park on a picnic or something.
I would love a picnic.
Up your game, bro.
I would love a picnic.
Take her on a date.
I know.
Nikki deserves a date.
I do. He's such a good guy though. So thoughtful.
That's good.
He takes good care of me. But we officially started dating in April, early April.
Are you guys about the same age? Is he a little older?
He's 27.
Okay. So he's a little bit older than you, but not much older.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think I need that.
I think
guys my age are sometimes.
Yeah, they're dumb as fuck. It's fine.
Bill said it, not me, but I was thinking it.
But you know who you are, and you know you are. And
if the shoe fits.
Yeah. No, I'm like 10 years older than my girlfriend, so I think that generally happens to, especially someone that maybe has some sort of like stunted adolescent problems like myself. Anyway, the point is, last time we were talking about the Garden of Eden, and this is just going to be the final thought here, and you don't even have to answer, but if God plans everything, then he meant for them to eat the fruit and then all of us to live this life of consequence. So thank you guys so much for listening. Check out my interview right now with this week's Instagram hottie. I honestly don't even know who it is yet, but it's going to happen right now, and make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and also check out Nikki's podcast, Little Talks with Big Nikki.
Yes, check it out.